All right. Welcome, everybody, to this round three match of the new Challenger Exceed Mentor tournament between Tur in red and Cobalt slash Alcaraz in blue. Um, Pretty exciting matchup. I'm looking forward to this one. We've got on Cobalt's team, Cobalt being third seed. Really solid results so far. Doesn't have a team name. Playing Linne, Vatista, and Mole. Mentored by Petersonian. Cobalt has banned Hazama from Tur's team. Meanwhile, Tur, who has banned Mole, mentored by Poiman. He's a slightly lower seed in this tournament, only 19 points to 24. Quite close seeding. Has played fewer games. Has a pretty solid win record in those games. He's a solid player. He has a long, complicated Toho name off the top of my head. I think it's Hollow Knight in the NOL, and then those weird little tilde signs. Snake is cold as ice. His team is Jin, Hazama, and Landrekia. These two have never met in League before. So probably we're going to see the first game, spent gathering a little bit of data on one another, trying to get a lock on one another's play style as they figure this matchup out. I'm just hosting here, and hopefully we will be able to get started in just a second. I know that Cobalt has. Second, rid of that. I know that Cobalt has a lot of confidence in his Linne, who he used to beat 2-1 Buj Bingus last week. Looks like Vatista is coming out first on Cobalt's side. Interesting. Darn, a character that I know much less thoroughly. Going to be a little bit harder for me to commentate. How could you, Cobalt? And it looks like we've got Jin coming in on Tur's side. So we're going to see hopefully a lot of range 2 play coming out of Tur into a zoner character. Vatista able to do a lot of control effects. Pushes, pulls, draws, all increased by her character ability. Other than that, I know she gathers a huge amount of gauge. I know that she spends that gauge very well on some, more than half of her deck are ultras. Tails wins the coin toss. Who called Tails here? We will find out. Looks like Cobalt did. Tails meta, the traitor. Cobalt to play first. Cobalt mulling 3. So as a starter play, Vatista has numerous mix-ups that she can play around with. She's got her 3-6, her other her 3-8, her other 3-8 in Eco Ruseo. Some of them are ultras though. I'm just realizing that now. So going to have some difficulty playing those turn 1. So really, it looks to me like it's Lumen, Stella, and Miko on the no move side, and then Dive on the move side. My guess is that if you're playing into Jin, you kind of want to keep your distance. But we'll see how things go here. It doesn't look to me like Miko Ruseo stuns. So that's more of a poke at range. Maybe you play that a little bit later in the matchup once you know that Ice Blade is down on Jin's side or he doesn't have his movement tools online. It notably does outspeed Ice Blade. I'm sorry, Crystal Strike, but it doesn't stun, so Jin will still be able to close with that. My guess is that it pushes you somewhere because it's Vatista. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, interesting. So we've got Jin playing first, moving in, only to get stopped by the sweep. Cobalt immediately taking, very happily taking the mix-up there and winning with the close-in. And the dive goes down, so Jin basically had, it looks like, both ways to move in. Cobalt had one way to stop both of them. Reset to range 2 with Vatista in the corner, which is not the worst place that you want. The worst positioning that you want is Jin, but you are, you know, a few life and a card down of that mix-up. But Tur starting off very aggressively. No boosts, wants to close distance on the zoner, which makes a lot of sense. At this position for Jin, you've got dual ice strike. You've got permafrost. You've got your DP in violent ice. I feel like those slower two are especially difficult to play against Vatista because of the number of things that she has that actually push you around. However, at this range, she doesn't really have a lot of those things online. Lumenstella's offline. Mika Ruseo's offline. So really, it's her 2 1-gauge ultras. All right, playing something with Vatista's character ability. This could just be a focus to draw more cards. It's a focus to draw more cards. We've got the trading focuses. All right, an incredibly low impact interaction there, except that Vatista has drawn more cards. Otherwise, largely symmetrical violence. Doesn't do anything to get herself out of the corner, though. Maybe just building options up for later on. Meanwhile, Jin continues to be able to press his advantage in the corner. Has access to that very, very dangerous mix-up. Oh. Power of Order is down, dropping the cross to do it. Willing to just to make Vatista draw or discard a huge number of cards. Looks like we've got Ruber Angelus down. Looks like we've got Transvorance down. We've got a cross in hand at least. The cross is down as well. And Jin has drawn for end of turn. So that's 5 force that Cobalt has had to discard there. As Vatista, that's potentially backbreaking. You know, so much of her damage, my understanding is that it's tied up in her ability to spend force on huge payouts. All right, we're mixing up, moving to range 1, possibly to dodge some of those dangerous range 2 options. At this point, permafrost is very much online for Jin. There's not a lot that there's not a lot slow that Vatista has that can trade with that. You know, if this is range 1 with 2 gauge online, the other copy of Ruber Angelus shoves out of range. Doesn't beat. Sweep into permafrost. All right, so you love to see that on Jin's side. Dodges the spike, forcing Cobalt to kind of hope hard that he calls that mix up right. Permafrost very dangerous to play at range 1, but extremely effective. Not a lot of things that can stun sweep in Jin's kit, especially after that Power of Order, because of the card draw, was able to make that happen. maybe a telegraphed play because of the cards in hand, but I mean, it's there specifically to make people not want to strike into you, and that's exactly why, because you can threaten that permafrost right afterward. Cobalt probably, at this point, really hoping to get out of the corner here. Jin's initiation has all the momentum right now. This can be an extremely dangerous sweep now that Vatista has moved to range 1. Wild swing from Vatista into Zahisho. The sweep is down. Choosing to spend. So we are doing the big shove to beat out the sweep. I think that makes a lot of sense. Dropping the whole gauge. That's Transvorance, Armabellum, and block. So we've got advantage at range, big swing and momentum in Vatista's favor here. CCing everything she's got, pretty much, keeping the block in hand to fully reload the hand. Jin now at range. Basically, we're back at initial positions again. Jin with a little bit of a resource advantage here. Strike, no UA, it looks like. This could be Ice Blade, this could be Dive. I feel like if you were playing Crystal Strike, you are confident enough that it's going to hit, that you spend the gauge on it. Unless you are really, really banking on trying to get into Exceed mode here. This also could just be Moonsong. I'm sorry, not at this range. Moonsong's 2 to 3. It's a whirl. Okay, so at this point you're back down to 1 gauge again. I don't think any of your alters really help you here, so you've kind of got to rely on your 2 projectiles. Either go at speed 5 and don't stun, or Ice Blade into Spike. Okay. Interesting use of Spike there. Not sure what that was trying to cover. I guess it... No, I mean, pretty much everything that Jin has that moves either moves past spikes or... Oh, maybe looking for the other Crystal Strike, trying to mitigate the push effect to do damage again. All right. UA is Vatista. Very possible that this is a push effect to get Jin to max range. You have an above curve option as Jin on defense with Crystal Strike if you really want to move back in. I think that's probably what I play. Dive into Lumen Stella. Okay, you're very all right with that. Jin really maintaining momentum here, winning a lot of strikes on the opponent's side. This is incredibly scary. Cornered Vatista into Exceed side Jin. Really better hope that some of those range 1 options are in your hand now. Maybe rethinking how much gauge you spent to CC that hand. Save a little bit more for some ultras and go on a slightly lower hand size. Against Jin, that's really, really dangerous, though. So a bad place on Vatista here. Vatista's got pretty much 1 turn to get out of this range with respect, okay? So we move to the other side. Jin still has some options at range 3, but they're much less backbreaking. Jin pretty much has to strike here, I think, to try to bring down that respect to prevent Cobalt from drawing cards. Definitely has options to do it. What are we playing here? Assault into Spike. Okay, calls the mix-up very well. Does Vatista. Oops. The wrong card. So it doesn't get the potentially extremely dangerous card discard. Jin still maintaining a ludicrous hand size, which is the Jin standard. Vatista has some momentum back here. Can potentially either weather this storm away, if you can get away fast enough, or go on the offensive if you've got. Are we moving back? Wow. Yep, moving all the way away. Didn't see what one of those cards was. I think it might have been Zahisho. Keeping 2 gauge, it doesn't really make a ton of sense if it is Zahisho, though. Oh, never mind. It doesn't hit at that range. All right. So does Jin have this? I mean, this is Ice Strike if it's anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you've got a push effect, this is, I believe, pretty free to stop this. Nope. Okay. So you are trading. You're getting card draw back at the very least into this. But this is definitely Jin's lead here. I thought that attack pushed. I'm thinking of Hilda with her control effects. Right. I believe opponent has to discard. Discards the focus. Jin moves in. Cornering, giving Vatista has gauge, can definitely make something happen here, but it's a at this point Jin is playing around, I think, the kind of Hail Mary Latus Orbis. Otherwise, what is that gauge really doing for you? I mean, if it's a gagey thing that you're scared of, you are playing around speed 3 and 2. Other than that, I mean, Vatista has the other copy of Assault that she can threaten with, but prepping in the corner. All right. This is a very, very dangerous position for Vatista to be in. Sheathing the sword, striking with a gigantic hand. All right. Block. Okay. Block into Assault. We start the advantage chain as Jin. And there's our discard, the other copy of Assault. Does Cobalt spend anything for the blocks? Cobalt still has dives in play, means that you really can't threaten too hard, and I mean there's fairly likely that one of them's in your hand. Can't play Pinpoint Strike is up. Okay, spending what for the cost there? Looks like the spike is down. That makes a lot of sense in this position. To me, this is you're playing fast, trying to beat out the dive. There's the dive. You're playing fast. Okay. Hail Mary, I think, dive on Vatista's side there. Really, really attempting to mitigate the worst case scenario and try to survive again. If you get hit by sweep there, you just straight up die. So we've got advantage. Is there an advance or retreat 1? Looks like no. We are striking again. Is this the other copy of Grasp? You show into sweep. All right, so once again, I got the which card that is wrong on there. All right. Pushes to range. Nothing to put in the hand though. Or I'm sorry, nothing to put engaged from hand, so not a lot of reload. Does manage to both times mitigate the threat of Jin's sweep at range 1 by calling it with Zahisho. So he's Cobalt CCing here, prepping to try to maintain Gauge. Really doesn't have a huge number of options, but really needs those last blocks in hand. At this point, Jin can honestly just play overhead. Nope, he can't actually. I'm sorry. Crystal Strike is the one with overhead on it, so you can't above curve close out. Reshuffles, it looked like. Okay. Dual Ice Strike can't move, spending the other copy of Grasp to do it. All right, so you are basically guaranteeing a projectile coming out here as Vatista CCs away the rest of her Gauge to try and get back in the game here. And so if this is ooh, okay, all right, so calling the block again, living another turn. That is Ice Fang down. All right. He's taking 2 unless they're spending. Oh boy. Okay, so we are down to 1 life at range 1 on Jin's side. Yep. That is that hit and goes to Gauge. Okay. And once again, Vatista on the back foot has really 1 shot to get out of this, to get out of here. Superior. Okay. Maybe going for the EX Grasp. The EX Dive to try to get away. Focus into focus. All right. That is, I believe that's game. That's 4 into 3 armor for 1 damage. Very strong Jin play coming out of Cobalt. Terra now has the opportunity to either stay as Jin or switch to another character. Cobalt will then have the opportunity to respond. Terra stays. After that performance, it makes a lot of sense to stay. Cobalt switching. Cobalt switching to Linne. Okay, so we are going to have a range 2 fight. As things are transitioning over to the next game. Just checking overlay and things like that over here, making sure that everything looks right. There seems to be one thing that I forgot on the overlay. I will fix it later. All right, Linne is out. Linne definitely able to contest Jin at that crucial range 2. Has things that can at least deal with that very dangerous mix-up. However, Moongyre loses cleanly to Violent Ice, so you can't contest fast with your DP against Jin's DP. It just straight up beats it out. But you do have options that deal with Permafrost in Elusive Flash. It deals with Ice with Violent Ice as well. It deals with Dual Ice Strike at if you're playing it at that range. Potentially a very dangerous card on Linne's side. Her 1 Gauge Ultra for 4. Able to maintain that range with her advantage state and continually threaten just a lost combat unless you're willing to commit to something like below curve assault. Thinking of anything else, below curve crystal strike works as well for Jin, but nothing safe that will move you forward and hit at that range. So elusive flash, a potentially extremely powerful option. Looks like a turn 1 prep from Cobalt. Seeds momentum back over to Jin. Last time we saw the immediate crystal strike into sweep play. Probably, a zoner. You're trying to close the distance and maintain that threat close up. Against Linne, you might be seeing an Ice Blade. Your chances of dealing with it, against Skyfangs, I think Skyfangs actually just beats Ice Blade. Skyfangs has a guaranteed close on it. I can't remember if it's close 2 or 3. Oh, again, exact same interaction as before. Crystal Strike into sweep. Linne maybe just not afraid of that. And the block goes away as well. Linne possibly just not afraid of that Ice Blade, willing to commit to the sweep every time. Cobalt, rather. Linne was not here last game. All right, we're set at range 2, which Linne's perfectly fine with. I think if you initiate here, you are not telegraphing that you're using elusive flash. You kind of save that for defense against Jin. We will see. We got some kind of boost. There's the Skyfangs out. +1 power now strike. Just making your range 2 play a little bit spicier. Wild swinging from Jin at range 2. Ice Fang for invalidation. Okay, so elusive flash is down, so you are just basically saying take 5. Unless you can cross out or something, there goes the grasp as well. Yep, take 5. Interesting to see that played so early. I think that there's a lot of value in threatening it across the whole game, and so spending it, even with +1 power, I think that that's a pretty decent trade. It is making me a little bit happier to, is it Linne's turn? Like they're accepting it. I must have missed something. It's making me as Jin a little bit happier to play around at range 2 because 1 copy of that card is down. I took 5 damage to show for it. Still potentially an incredibly damaging loss for Jin. Didn't commit a huge amount to that strike. Lost an ultra, which is potentially very bad. But on a wild swing. Didn't intentionally commit a lot to that strike, maybe I should say. All right, striking from 3. I think this is very easily it's the same assault spike mix-up. Last time we saw the spike lose to Vatista's assault. See if Terra's mixing it up here. There's the assault into the dive. Okay. Catches it out. Maybe learn from the correct read that Cobalt had last time. Maintains momentum, gets a little bit back at range 1. Spending the ultra, this seems like a grasp to me. I'm sorry, not spending the ultra, spending the gauge for the after draw 2. This seems like you're playing fast to try to maintain that. So a focus coming out from Linne here makes a lot of sense. Any slow options that you've got that trade well with either Violent Ice or more likely Grasp. Well, Violent Ice actually is quite good on offense. I gotta remember that. But to me, if you are striking with Jin's, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would stop you from just playing fast here. I mean, it could just be sweep and your opponent just dropped the dive. There is a sweep. Okay. You're trading very well. No. You're trying to use the DP. That would have lost, I think, to both sides of that mix-up. So yeah, I got mixed up by that as well. I would have thought that the fast was coming out, but then I was thinking, hey, wait a minute. Dive is down. Oh, lost the other copy of Elusive Flash as well. We might be seeing a very early reshuffle from Linne here. That card seems very, very important in this matchup. And we are at range 2 on Linne's turn. Both of her range 2 options, actually, in Elusive Flash and Moongyre were put down in a certain way, either engage or in discard that turn. Maintaining a narrow life lead. Other than that, pretty similar game states, to be honest. I think that at the moment, Jin actually has a minor advantage because of the fact that the Elusive Flashes are completely out of play. You can be, and one Moongyre as well, you can be much freer with your Permafrosts now. But on defense, that's a little bit spicy. All right, we've got the Linne prep backing up. Backing up to 2, maintaining a resource advantage. I'm sorry, backing up to 3, maintaining a resource advantage, holding center. Very possible to have EX Assault at this point. On Jin to respond here. And they giving you momentum and giving you resources by doing her UA. Obviously, she's still coming out on top in that exchange. She's drawing more cards. She's moving to a range that she prefers. I think it makes absolute sense as soon as these cards go away that you start to really, really heavily disfavor range 2 as Linne. Those cards are incredibly powerful to keep yourself going at that range. Jin's striking clean at this range. Okay. Spawning with 1 Assault into Skyfangs. All right, wins the mix-up. Doesn't do a lot of damage. Gets advantage while it happens, but wins cleanly. Even life total at range 1. With a slight gauge advantage. With that gauge advantage, though, you're no longer threatening Moonsong. I'm wondering if Jin is going to try again to exceed. Striking again, okay. If you're looking for that last gauge, this can be a grasp. Violent Ice, okay. Blocking doesn't feel great to block the Violent Ice. You're not getting a huge amount of value out of your block there. Both copies of block, I believe, are down as well on Linne's side. As this ticks down into the late game, that's going to be more and more dangerous. Also makes your Crystal Strike at range a little bit more savory as Jin because you're not trying to hold on to that overhead boost to beat out that armor. And actually also, so it really looks like only focus is left for armor on Linne's side because Skyfangs is down as well. All right, we've got Tenacious Mist, or the boost on Tenacious Mist down. So naming a normal, naming focus that can't hit you here. And on hit, you gain advantage. Okay. So, threatening grasp. I mean, play sweep if you got sweep. Wild swinging here. Sweep into block. Okay, so you're not, exact same, almost identical interaction as last time, except that you were doing a tiny bit more damage as Jin with your Violent Ice. Not happy to spend the block on grasp, but you take the 1 damage, you put it in gauge, you're more or less okay with that. Pretty big resource expenditure in order to just hit with a grasp for 1 damage. Maybe not happy with that as Linne. Now you're at range 2. Do you exceed here? There's a copy of Cross still live for Linne. She can escape very quickly. You don't quite yet have the gauge when you're exceeding to threaten Violent Ice Ice Fang right after. if you cross out, you can just immediately next turn or even that turn, if you feel like being very spicy, use Ice Fang to catch the cross. So maybe Jin looking to hit one more time, try to get Gage once more to threaten that card on the off chance that Linne does cross out right away. Yep. Advantage from the Tenacious Mist boost. That might not have been indecision on Tur's part. That might have been, oh wait, it's my opponent's turn. Striking at 2. You're striking at 2. This seems spike or cross shaped. Diviner, okay. It's the turn after a strike. You're doing 7 damage, so you're doing 4 and you're stunning. Okay. Big gauge expenditure for that, but I mean you're doing 4 damage and it's uncontested. You're pretty happy as Jin to be spending that armor there. You didn't hit, so you're not thrilled by any means. Linne action to back up. All right. Draws 1 card. So at this point, you are at range 5 as Linne. I have to assume that you are threatening. Oh, Skyfangs is down. Are you threatening anything here? Crossing into range 2. Okay. What is Linne threatening at range 5 without... Maybe I miscounted a Skyfang. I think I saw both of them go down. Might have been a little bit premature as Jin to move in when he didn't have to. He has projectiles and Linne doesn't at that point. Maybe just afraid to let the momentum swing, or maybe just there's a card interaction that I'm missing here. I mean, you're Jin, you're definitely stronger at range 2, especially at this stage in the game when both copies of both of your opponent's strongest options are down and only 1 copy of Cross is left. It is Linne's turn to respond, though. Maybe you're just playing that cross because you saw your opponent back up and you're like, hey, wait a minute. My opponent wants to be far away. I won't let them. It's like a regular prep. Are we exceeding? It appears that we are exceeding. At mid-board, you're giving your opponent somewhere to go, but they can't go far in any direction. All right, you probably have things that can hit every turn as Jin at this range and at this position. You've got Ice Blade if you want it. Short range Ice Blade is actually kind of spicy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Catches the cross just fine. Beats out the sweep. All right, we're backing up with the Diviner. Divine Blaze, not the Diviner. Is Jin striking here? Jin's got a lot of now strike boosts if he wants to give himself a little bit more sauce. Doesn't have Moonsong online. +2 speed right now could be pretty backbreaking. Really probably might want to move in unless he's got Ice Blade. I think if you've got it, you play it. Both copies of it are still live in his deck. This seems very... I mean, it can be dive too, and that's the mix-up, right? Thinking about the response here, Cobalt doesn't really have a lot of strong options left. I mean, if this is the dive, and if this is the dive, you've got nothing, basically. And if this is the Ice Fang, you have Ice Blade, you have dive. Block into dive, okay. So before you can spend for that damage, I seem to have miscounted the blocks. My apologies. Before you can spend for that block on damage, you first have to discard a card because you're Jin going into Exceed mode. There goes the cross. Okay. Doesn't have anywhere to retreat to. That makes sense. And is discarding another copy of the Diviner in order to take no damage there. All right, if you've got an air dash or something to get away, a reshuffle would actually not be horrible here. Linne actually kind of maintaining a life advantage, despite all of my hooting and hollering on commentary about how she's running herself out of options. Okay, move yourself out of range. The draw 2. I think it's actually the wrong order for that, but that's okay. All right, are we still striking? Like if you're Jin, you kind of have to be. I'm not sure how I didn't even notice that in all of this excitement, you wind up with a 5-life lead on Jin here as Linne. All right, so you're back at the other side of your opponent. Reading. There's a reading out. What are we reading? Permafrost into the dive. Okay. So there goes that life lead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. All good, Tur. The reading was correct, so I saw it. Like we discarded the assault as well. I mean, honestly, at this point, you do it again as Jin. Your opponent is very, very quickly running out of things that are higher than speed 4 as options. You might not even need to rely on the reading anymore. Divine Blaze is offline. That's your 6 speed. It's the other copy of Assault, and that's it. Tenacious Mist, I guess, as well. So you are forcing your opponent to play below curve. If you want to just threaten that permafrost again, you really do want to do it on offense though, because there's Flying Swallow beats it cleanly if you play it on defense. Playing a boost. Advance your retreat 1. Okay, so there's 1 copy of Flying Swallow. Now you're at range 2. What are you playing here? This seems very spiky to me. Wild Swinging with Jin at range 2. Wow. I kind of think if you're even just hitting as Jin here, you're happy with it. I don't think... I think you just... Maybe you don't assault here. You don't have a lot of grasp into spike art, so it was the spike. Ter getting a little bit unlucky on the wild swings. I have to think that it's somewhere in that deck in that hand you've got a range 2 option that beats that spike. Okay. We are drawing. Did we pay for the overdrive? Right. That after draw 1, the after from the speed 7 grasp. All right. Let's see if this ridiculous hand has some things in it. It is still Linne's turn. Can she maintain this kind of momentum? She's running herself out of options pretty quickly here. She does have 2 copies of Focus left. So she can survive a little bit longer if she needs to, and you can't trade that well at low life. Those 2 copies of Spike that Jin has are looking more and more powerful, though. If I'm Linne and my opponent... All right, Armored Blow. Okay. This seems like you're playing pretty... Well, I mean... You want to be playing slow with Armored Blow because it it gets you the most out of your armor. Wild swinging again is Terra, it looks like. Maybe not. Maybe that was just a shuffle for good luck. I've got to think that you've got stuff in your hand here that can contest Linne's remaining options at range 2. Your Jin. This is definitely your range. You probably don't want to spend the permafrost, but even just Violent Ice, make her discard cards. Keep your engine going. This works on defense too. Moonsong, probably not. This Divine Blaze is active here, and this is maybe it. Actually, Divine Blaze might just close the game out on its own. It's the turn after a strike, I think. Yeah. If this is Divine Blaze, you just block, and hope it's not the spike mix-up. Turret checking discard. Yep. If you think it's Divine Blaze, you play Violent Ice. If you think it's anything else, well, wait, no, Violent Ice isn't anything. You're EXing here. EXing. EX Moonsong. Oof. You have it, you play it. Devastating. All right, beats out a huge amount of that setup there. You lose gauge doing it. There goes the other cross. I seem to have missed that on the tracker as well. Yeah, that is even with that armor ahead of time, mitigating a lot of the damage of that Moonsong. Just being able to beat out what is potentially, I mean, that would have ended the game. So EX Moonsong is the play there for sure, if you have it. Big commitment of resources. You are still in Exceed mode. It looks like Jin still needs to spend for Overdrive as well. Okay. Only 2 cards left in hand for Jin. Realize that there's a reading down on Jin's side. Running yourself very, very quickly out of options. Basically, I mean, if you play Permafrost here and Linne Wild Swings Assault, you lose the game. Other than that, is Tenacious Mist? Tenacious Mist is actually... Sorry, no, I mean, your 2 copies of Moonsong for the +2 speed now strike are also both down. Striking cleanly. Wild Swing into the spike. Okay, so that's game. Wow. Her clutching it out, that second game was much, much scarier than the first one. EG to you both. Very well played. It's what we call in the industry a close 2-0. I can't say that Cobalt, you know, it's a situation where the results on the sheet will not reflect how close that game was. Yeah, very, very well played by both. Terror making that Jin look extremely dangerous. Cobalt's Linne continuing to serve him well in these matchups. Actually, a pretty major upset now that I think about it. Tur, the lower seed, taking Cobalt out. Cobalt, one of the stronger players in this event. Yeah, very, very nicely played. All right. We have another game coming up in about 20 minutes between Han Hans and Shabaka. I might be on commentary for that as well, but I believe CPAT is hosting. So I'm going to call recording and streaming there. Thank you guys for watching so much, and hopefully I will hear from you soon.